So today I'm going to discuss with you all about the northern hybridization and the southern hybridization technique, and this is for the fifth semester biotech students. So let's get started now. Well, in this notes in this video, I will not go through all the notes that I have provided to you in the WhatsApp group. Well, I will discuss with you. I will not go for line by line. Okay, so that's all what I want to say. So let's get started now. So in your syllabus, it has given about the blotting techniques. Okay, and in your hybridization techniques they have mentioned, and it is also called as blotting. It is also known as blotting. Now, what happens in blotting technique and why we do this blotting process? Well, blotting techniques are very widely used. They are analytical tools used for specific identification of our desired DNA or RNA fragments from thousands of molecule species. Well, if you want to identify specific regions of your desired DNA or specific regions of your RNA fragment from from thousands of molecules, then we go for this blotting techniques. So to identify specific regions of your DNA of your interest or RNA from the whole genome, we go for the blotting process. Blotting refers to the process of immobilization of a sample nucleic acids or solid support. Blotting means what? Blotting means simply uh, it refers to the process of immobilization of sample nucleic acids or solid support by the help of nitrocellulose membrane or nylon membrane. So what we do here is we immobilize the sample nucleic acids uh, on a solid support. Okay, whether you are using DNA or whether you are using RNA, we will immobilize that nucleic acid on a solid support. This will be on. Okay, it is not or, should not be or. Now that solid support is your either nitrocellulose filter paper or nylon membrane. So we attach our sample DNA or attach our sample RNA molecules. From there we will try to identify our DNA of our choice. So before that we have to immobilize that sample nucleic acid onto that nitrocellulose filter paper or nylon membrane. Then the blotted nucleic acids are used as targets in the hybridization experiments for their specific detection. There is an outline given on the nucleic acid blotting technique or nucleic acid hybridization technique on the next page. So let's see now. So whether you are going for different techniques, with there are different types of hybridization techniques, or you can say blotting techniques. There is southern hybridization, which is used specifically for the detection of our desired DNA from the mixture of DNA. Then there is northern blotting, used for the detection of the RNA. There is also a dot blot technique which is not mentioned in your syllabus. It is also used for the detection of DNA as well as RNA. Then there is colony and plaque blotting technique. This is normally used to detect specific cells from the colony of cells to identify that which of the cells are transformed. That means which of the cells contain our desired DNA of interest inserted into it via plasmid or by direct method of gene transfer. Now this technique, the colony and plaque blot, or you can say the colony or plaque hybridization. This technique is normally will be discussed when I will discuss about the screening of recombinants. That means after you have inserted your gene of interest, then how you will detect that where your DNA has been inserted to which colony of cells. For that we have to go for the colony hybridization. Today I am discussing about this northern and southern blotting technique, also called as northern and southern hybridization. Okay, so we can go for all of this process. It is the same procedure, the chemicals are different. Okay, so we have to hybridize it, we have to do pre-hybridizing it. And hybridization, first it is attached with the night with the certain membrane. Okay, which is acting as a support, either nylon membrane, or you can use a nitrocellulose filter paper membrane. Nitrocellulose membrane. And then what we do after attaching that sample DNA or RNA, where we have that target DNA also of our interest which we want to identify, or the target RNA that we want to identify. Then we have to hybridize the sample DNA with labeled DNA probes. So we will use labeled DNA or labeled RNA probes. What are probes actually? If I say what are probes, if I say probes, whether you are using DNA probe or RNA probe, they are the stretches of single stranded DNA, or if you are using RNA probe, they are the stretches of single stranded RNA, which is used to detect the presence of our complementary nucleic acid sequence, which is your target sequence by hybridization. So if this is your mixture of DNA, and within that mixture of DNA, we use a probe, we use a probe. That probe should be complementary to our target DNA. Okay, that probe should be complementary to our target DNA or target RNA, whatever probe we are using. Now normally DNA or RNA probes are few nucleotides long, they are not too much large. Just like a primer, they are few nucleotides long, but these probes are usually tagged with certain uh, protein or certain other things, like they are labeled with radioisotopes. Okay, for their detection. Okay, or they are labeled with epitopes, which are the antigenic determinants or part of antigen which can be recognized by our immune system. Or that probe can be labeled with some fluorochromes, okay, or you can say fluorophores, okay, which will helps to normally fluorophores, they can absorb and they can emit light of suitable wavelength, which can be detected autoradiographically or under UV light. Okay, or sometimes these probes are labeled with biotin, which is also called as vitamin B7. Generally in the book it is given of radioisotope. So radioisotope is most of them used, but because of radioactive pollution we are doing, instead of using radioisotope, nowadays fluorochromes are used, which will absorb certain wavelength of light and emit the light, which will be detected in the autoradiography, which will be detected in UV light. Okay, so normally what is the function here? We can see that as these are single stranded, these probes are single stranded, they will hybridize with the specific DNA fragment or specific RNA fragment, whatever probes we are using. And as these probes are tagged with certain agents, say for example they are tagged with radioisotope, they can, so eventually the place where it will bind with the DNA, this tagged thing also gets binded in that site, and that can be detected easily. Okay, so they allow a specific sequence of DNA or RNA to be identified in a mixture. So generally these are the small single strands of DNA or RNA which is used to detect the presence of complementary nucleic acid sequence, which is your target sequence, by hybridization. And most of the case these probes are labeled with uh, some sort of fluorophore, or it is tagged with radioisotope for their easily detection, that where I have hybridized to identify that location. The point of hybridization can be detected through autoradiography or through the detection of the wavelength of light if we are using fluorochromes, okay, as a probe. So finally, after hybridization, we will wash that support, whether you are using nitrocellulose or whether you are using uh, um, your nylon membrane. They are washed repeatedly with certain washing medium, so as to remove away the non-targeted bound. So remove the all the things except the hybridization of the probe and the target DNA or RNA, whatever we are using. So by washing, what happened, it remove all the unbound DNA probe or unbound RNA probe, if whatever you are using. Depending on that, we name them as northern hybridization and southern hybridization as well. In case of detection of DNA, we go for southern hybridization. In case of detection of RNA, we go for northern hybridization. So in northern hybridization, we use RNA probe for detection of our specific RNA, and in southern hybridization, we go for using DNA probe for detection of specific DNA in southern hybridization. So we will wash them to remove away the unbounded probes, okay. So only the bound probes, if it is present, okay, it will with the help of complementary base pairing, it bind to our specific DNA or RNA of our interest. And then for detection, we go for autoradiography or some other processes, like if we are using if we have used fluorochromes, then it will emit light of suitable wavelength that can be detected. So let us now discuss about one by one this whole blotting process. Okay, the first one that I will discuss with you is your southern blotting process. Well, this southern blotting is actually, what can I say? It get its name because of the inventor. The name of this southern blotting. This southern blotting was invented by a famous scientist known as E.M. Southern. E.M. Southern, and this southern blotting is based on DNA hybridization. DNA hybridization. Okay, that forms the main base of this blotting technique. Okay, so let us see what it has been written here. So southern blotting technique is the first nucleic acid blotting technique. It is the first nucleic acid blotting technique developed in 1975 by E.M. Southern, and the whole process is given in this figure, in figure 7.8. So we will see one by one, including the steps of this blotting fragments, including this blotting process. So first, what they have said, that the genomic DNA is first isolated from the cell or tissues. The first step is we have to isolate our genomic DNA, because in southern hybridization we will hybridize our target DNA. So first the genomic DNA is isolated from the cell and tissues, and then that genomic DNA is subjected to restriction digestion. That genomic DNA is now subjected to restriction digestion. So with the help of restriction enzymes, with the help of one or more restriction enzymes, we will digest the genomic DNA. That means simply, you know that restriction enzymes identify a certain specific sequence in the DNA and will cleave at that site or near to that site. Different type of restriction enzymes are there, like ECO-R1, BAMH1, HIND3, then SAL1. Different types of restriction enzymes are there, which are used here for cleaving, for cutting your genomic DNA to make into series of fragments. Okay, so that our desired DNA part can also get including that pieces. Now this mixture, that means now the genomic DNA has been digested with restriction endonuclease enzyme. It is digested with restriction endonuclease enzyme. It is cut into series of fragments because we have used more than one restriction enzymes. So this mixture is now loaded into well in an agarose or polyacrylamide gel, and then it is subjected to electrophoresis. So what we have done after restriction digestion, after you use the restriction enzymes to digest the DNA, to make that DNA into series of fragments, now that mixture is allowed for electrophoresis, gel electrophoresis. For the gel for the gel electrophoresis, we may use polyacrylamide gel or we may use agarose gel. Generally, agarose gel is used for the detection of the DNA bands, but here we can also use polyacrylamide gel because they have small pore size and thus very small pieces of DNA can be resolved, can be identified. Now DNA being negatively charged migrate towards the anode, that is a positively charged electrode. The smaller DNA move faster, as we know. So in during the electrophoresis process, it has been made in such a way, such an arrangement that as DNA is negatively charged, it will move to the positive charge electrode, which is your anode, and smaller DNA fragments will move faster than the larger DNA fragments. You will see that obviously for a detection we will use certain dye is employed for visualizing the movement of the bands. Okay, but generally we will see, when we will see them in the after electrophoresis, we will see them in the UV chamber, that the small DNA bands have moved faster than the large DNA bands. Okay, so this is the figure. Okay, the figure has not been, okay, the figure has been given, but in a simple way it has given. So you can see the genomic DNA which has been isolated. Then by using various restriction endonuclease enzymes, the DNA has been cleaved into series of fragments. Well, here the fragments that have been shown of equal size, but uh, truly speaking, these equal size fragments does not occur, because where the restriction site is there we don't know, and the restriction site is different in case of different individuals, and that's why the DNA fingerprinting comes into play. Well, in the first semester I have said with you that during the DNA fingerprinting, what we use a single type of restriction enzymes, and that restriction enzyme site where the restriction enzyme will cleave the DNA is different for different individuals. Well, it will closely resemble with the father and son and mother and son, but for individuals the restriction sites are in located in different places, and that's why when we resolve them in agarose gel electrophoresis, we can compare them, and we can identify that about who has committed the crime in DNA fingerprinting, or who is the father of the son in case of paternity test. But here we are going for identification of the DNA. So here we are digesting them with restriction enzymes. So different innumerous short fragment, long fragment, large fragments are created because we have digested with different types of restriction enzymes. Okay. Then we go for gel electrophoresis. Well, gel electrophoresis don't look like this. It actually have a slab made up of polyacrylamide gel, where we have created small pores called wells. Now in these wells we pour down our mixture that contain these restriction fragments. Okay, that contain these restriction fragments, and they are all moved down through the well. Okay, through this polyacrylamide gel, or you can say agarose gel, and they will move to the positive side of your electrode when they are fitted with electric circuit, because DNA is negative charge, and it will move to the positive side of your electric field during electrophoresis. So up to this much, I think you have understood. Now the main thing. Now the separate DNA molecules are denatured by exposure to a mild alkali and transferred to a nitrocellulose or nylon paper. Well, the DNA fragments which are now present in the agarose gel during electrophoresis, now that gel is treated with mild alkali solution. So a mild diluted alkali solution is treated to that gel slab which contain our mixture of fragments of DNA. Now why we add mild alkali? To denature the DNA so that the DNA becomes single stranded fragments. Okay, and then they are transferred to the nitrocellulose or nylon paper. Now from the gel, the DNA, those single stranded DNA that has been separated on the basis of their molecular weight, these separated DNA fragments now transferred to the nitrocellulose or nylon paper. Why we are doing that? In order to stick this single stranded DNA that has been just made by mild alkali treatment to be transferred to that nitrocellulose or nylon filtered paper. This process is known as blotting. And how this is done, let us see. This is done by this way. Well, there is a beaker, better to say container. Now within that container there is a supporting block of wood or cork. Then you can see the gel has been placed here, right here. The gel has been placed, and we apply a load of filter paper just above the nitrocellulose filter paper. This is your main filter paper, which is made up of nitrocellulose or with nylon, depending on what type of filter paper you are using, what type of hybridization you are using. For DNA, we use nitrocellulose filter paper. Now, a load has been given on above, which is of paper tissues. A glass plate is given then on the top, and then weight is given. Now, why we do that? We are doing that so that the DNA which is present in the gel transferred to the nitrocellulose filter paper by the action, by capillary action. Okay, this is your buffer solution. Okay, this is your buffer solution, and through the capillary action, your the buffer present here, due to the presence of load here, gravitational force occurs in this region. That's why the water or the buffer solution chemical move upwards, and when they are moving upwards, they are also entering to the gel. They are also entering to the gel, and when they are entering to the gel, they also carries away that DNA fragments and sticks and goes up to that nitrocellulose filter paper and sticks that DNA fragments in that respective places. So normally it is done, this process is called blotting actually, and here we are placing that electrophoresis gel on the top of a buffer saturated filter paper, and then lay our nitrocellulose filter membrane on the top of the gel, and then we place some dry filter paper or tissue paper on the top of this membrane. The buffer will move due to the capillary action. So the buffer is moving by the capillary action, as we have given a load on the top, so it will pressurize downward, and due to which the liquid found here, it will move to the topward by capillary action, because there are pores inside this supported block. There are pores on this gel electrophoresis gel, and it will move up to the nitrocellulose filter paper membrane, because above that there is no pore regions. So due to the capillary action, the buffer is moving from the bottom of the filter paper through the gel and carrying with it that denatured DNA present in the gel. The DNA does become trapped in that nitrocellulose membrane as the buffer pass through that membrane. So this process is called blotting. That's why we name them as northern blotting, also southern blot. We name them as southern blotting in case of hair. We are using DNA because this process was invented by E.M. Southern, and it is also called as southern hybridization because in the next step we will hybridize the DNA with specific probes, which will complementary bind with the target DNA. So it has two names, southern hybridization as well as southern blotting, and this whole process is called blotting, where with the help of capillary action, the buffer is moving from the container, the buffer is moving from the bottom of the filter paper through the gel, and it is carrying that denatured DNA present in the gel, and the DNA become trapped within the nitrocellulose membrane as the buffer pass through it. This process is called blotting, and for this process to complete it takes several hours. Well, nowadays we use to rapid increase of the process, we use a electrical circuit, we use electric current source to rapidly speed up the process, but it is bad because it may give you error result. So the relative positions that was present on the bands on the gel, that same position of the bands will remain to the membrane as present in the gel. So the resolution of the bands that was observed in the gel, in the agarose gel, after when we have done electrophoresis, we have observed them in the UV light and see the bands. That same position bands will be found on the nitrocellulose membrane as well after blotting, because just after blotting it has been observed that the position of the DNA bands, as we are doing the southern hybridization, so the position of the relative position of the DNA bands on the membrane remains same as those present in the gel. So there is minimal loss of resolution in the, or you can say the minimal loss of sharpness in this blotting technique. So you can see here uh, what we have said. In the next step, what we have done, we after transferring them, we now have to bake the DNA. Bake means we have to use a high temperature, about 80 degrees Celsius. The nitrocellulose filter paper is now removed from that blotting apparatus, and now the DNA which is present in that nitrocellulose filter membrane is subjected to baking at 80 degree Celsius. So the DNA now annealed to the paper on exposure to heat at 80 degree Celsius. The nitrocellulose or nylon paper is then exposed to the level of cDNA probes. Now, cDNA is the complementary DNA probes. Now we will treat that hybridized DNA. Not hybridized. We will now treat that single-stranded DNA which is attached with the nylon membrane or nitrocellulose filter membrane with complementary probes. Well, probes are what I have already discussed with you, that probes are, here we are using cDNA probes. Well, C means complementary DNA probes. Normally DNA probes are stretches of single strand of DNA which is used to detect the presence of complementary nucleic acid sequence, that is our target sequence, by hybridization technique. So if this is from a mixture of your DNA, from a mixture of your DNA present in the nitrocellulose filter paper, your probe is this, suppose it will hybridize with that region only, and the probe also contain a radioactive isotope or epitope or fluorophores or biotin tag with it. Why? For easy to identify. Well, if you tag that probe with radioisotopes, then it can be visualized in autoradiography where hybridization has take place. Okay, if you label the probes with fluorophores, then as fluorophores, they absorb and emit light within certain wavelength, so we can able to detect them. Okay, so as given in the image, as given in the figure, if you see, so with the help of DNA probe, after baking the DNA at 80 degrees Celsius, it has not been mentioned here, we label with DNA probes, and the probes have properly hybridized with the target DNA. So if this is the target DNA, if these are the target DNA, your probes have attached specifically to that target DNA. Now this probe also contain radio label or tagged protein which helps to visualize it clearly in autoradiography. Generally here autoradiography is used for the radioactivity. Okay, and that's, so we have used the probes which was tagged with radioactive isotope like P32. Okay, so it's a very lengthy process where numerous techniques are involved. In these techniques we have to go for DNA isolation. Okay, DNA isolation we have to do. In the next step we see we have to use restriction digestion. Okay, I am writing it in a good way. Okay, changing the color of the pen. So numerous techniques are involved in this process. First we have to go for the DNA isolation. In the next step we go for that, what we have done, restriction digestion, where we have use one or more restriction enzymes to break away the DNA, to break to digest the DNA, to cleave the DNA into series of fragments. In the next step we have done gel electrophoresis. right? Then in the next step, we have done the main process, the main heart of this process of southern hybridization, which is called blotting. We have done blotting where the DNA fragments which was present in the gel after electrophoresis, the DNA fragments which was present in the gel, they are now transferred to the nitrocellulose filter membrane by the help of capillary action, where the buffer from the soaked filter paper or the buffer from the container is moving upwards. As a result of capillary action, it is migrating towards the gel, and from the gel it is carrying that DNA fragments, and it is placing that DNA fragments at respective position in the nitrocellulose membrane. Then in the next step, we have done the baking process. In the baking process, normally it is done in the baking process, we have done so that we will stick that DNA, single stranded DNA, onto the nitrocellulose membrane firmly. It is done at 80 degrees Celsius. Well, I have also mentioned little bit. Okay, I have done mistake only. A simple small mistake I have done, because just after electrophoresis, we have, before blotting and electrophoresis, we have to treat the DNA with a mild alkali solution. So we have to do an alkali treatment also, so that the double stranded DNA becomes separated to form single stranded DNA. Okay, for denaturation we done do this technique. And then after baking, we undergo now hybridization, or you can say probe hybridization. Probe hybridization. Okay, in probe hybridization we use specific DNA probes here that is tagged with suitable radioisotope for easy detection. That probe will bind to its complementary target DNA, and in the last step, through autoradiography we can able to visualize. So this was all about your southern hybridization technique. Okay, well, what happens in case of northern hybridization? Well, some more things has been given in southern hybridization. What are the factors that affect your southern blotting technique? Okay, let us see. Well, let us see. The first is your, it is saying stringent conditions, that is stringency control. Stringency refers to the specificity with which a particular DNA target sequence is detected by probe. That means how much specificity a probe has, which will specifically bind to the DNA. That is referring to as stringency. So stringency means the specificity with which a particular DNA target sequence is detected by a probe. So with a high stringent conditions at elevated temperature and low salt concentration, only a completely complementary DNA sequence will bind and hybridize. However, low stringent conditions will allow hybridization but partially match sequence. So that's why it is saying, if you have high stringent conditions like you have elevated temperature of 80 degrees Celsius and low salt concentration, only complete complementary DNA sequence will hybridize and will bind with the probe. But if you have low stringent conditions, low temperature or high salt concentration, it will cause partial match sequence. So stringency control is very essential for specific detection of your DNA molecule in southern blotting. There may it occur that the probe sequence, somehow they have partial complementary with the target, with the other DNA which is not target DNA. So that's why we need some stringent control. We need some stringent actions to be taken. Like we have to increase the temperature, we have to use low salt concentration, so that specifically only the target DNA sequence will able to bind and hybridize completely. The other sequence which are not targeted, which have one or two base pair complementary with the probe, will not hybridize. But if you have no stringency control, then partially matched sequence will hybridize, that will give you an error result. So stringency control is very essential for specific detection of DNA molecules in Southern blotting. With good control of stringency, it is now possible to detect DNA molecule just with a single base pair difference. So just a single base pair difference between the molecules, we can able to partially, we can completely, we can able to detect that which is our target DNA molecule. Because there may be some more DNA molecules, more DNA fragments which are partially complementary with the target probe, with our probe, the probe that we have used. So that's the error that may occur. So that's why high stringent condition is required. That means we have to increase the temperature up to 80 degrees Celsius. We have used them. We have used for proper baking. During the process of baking, after transferring that single stranded DNA onto the nitrocellulose filter paper, then they are subjected to high temperature so that they can stick to the nitrocellulose filter membrane. Okay, and we have also used low salt concentration. Okay, mild alkali treatment, right? So that is enough for us to uh, for for accurate probe hybridization with its target or with its complementary sequence. The next is the membrane for blot transfer. What type of membrane we should use? Generally, nitrocellulose membrane is used. In early years it was used for immobilization of your DNA molecules. The drawback of this nitrocellulose is that it is fragile and has to be carefully handled. That means it can break off very easily. So proper care has to be taken. Even a mild mistake can break that nitrocellulose membrane. In recent years, most laboratories nowadays use nylon membrane as they possess high tensile strength and better binding capacity for nucleic acid. So, one of the errors, one of the disadvantage of using nitrocellulose is that it is fragile. It can be easily broken. So it has to be handled carefully. Nowadays, we use nylon membrane, which has high tensile strength. It cannot be broken, and it has better binding capability also for the nucleic acids. If you are using DNA or RNA, whatever. So, if you are using RNA, then northern hybridization is done. Okay. If you are using DNA, then southern hybridization is done. Depending on that, we can use nylon membrane because it has better tensile strength and it has better binding capacity for the nucleic acids. Now, where we can apply this Southern blotting technique? Southern blotting technique is used in various cases like in DNA fingerprinting, it can be used. Okay, it is an invaluable method for gene analysis. Okay, important for the confirmation of DNA cloning results. That means we can, with the help of Southern hybridization, or you can say with the help of Southern blotting, we can confirm our DNA cloning, that yes, our gene of interest is present on that particular cell. Sorry for that. Okay, the third is useful for map restriction sites around a single copy gene sequence. So you can map your entire genome. You can map your genome by observing the restriction sites. Well, for this we have to use different sets of probes, and we have to do blotting techniques differently to create that mapping restriction sites around a single copy gene sequence. Then other techniques are also there, other application is also there, forensically applied to detect minute quantities of DNA to identify the parenthood, thieves, rapists, etc. So very useful for the forensic studies because uh, because in forensic studies what we get a very minute amount of DNA sample in a crime site. Okay, well, for the parenthood study, DNA sample can be obtained in much quantity. Okay, because the victim is there, but the committed crime is actually there. But in crime site where crime is taking place, okay, like thief, murder, this type of events, there we get very little amount of DNA. That little amount of DNA is used as a probe. Actually, first we have to amplify them with PCR techniques, with polymerase chain reaction, and then we have to use them as probes so that it can complementary bind with the target DNA. Okay, and the target DNA and the DNA sample is taken from the suspects. Okay, and through Southern hybridization we can able to identify that minute quantities of DNA to be identify the parenthood, thieves, murder, etc. Now, next it is saying it is highly useful for the determination of restriction fragment length polymorphism associated with pathological condition. Well, restriction fragment length polymorphism is a technique where we have used different restriction. We have used a set of restriction enzymes that will cleave the DNA at different positions depending on their restriction sites. Well, for suppose the gene has been taken from two different individuals, okay, and they are subjected with same restriction enzyme digestion, you will get different fragments between them. Why? Because the restriction site present in the individual A will be different from the restriction site for the individual B. Let us say we have used restriction enzyme eco R1, or let us say we have used restriction enzyme BAM H1. The restriction site for the BAM H1 present on individual A will be located on different place compared to the restriction site of BAM H1 in individual 2. Thus you get a different fragments from individual 1 and individual 2 by using the same restriction enzyme. And when we resolve them in the gel electrophoresis, you will get a different bands, different DNA bands. So it is very highly useful for determination of restriction enzyme, restriction fragment length polymorphism associated with your pathological conditions. Okay. Then another technique called zoo blotting can also be done, where the DNA pieces from one species can be used to detect the DNA molecule from a related species. Okay, we want to understand the phylogenetic conditions, the related species conditions for evolutionary analysis. We can use the DNA pieces from one species and it can be used to detect the DNA molecules, the related DNA molecules from the other species, like for example chimpanzee, cow, or banana, or mice. Now this technique is called as zoo blotting, where we are taking the DNA pieces from one species, and then that DNA pieces is used as a probe to detect the DNA molecules from the related species. Okay, so zoo blotting can also be done. Well, in northern hybridization, if I say the northern hybridization technique, it is just similar with the southern hybridization, except that here in northern blotting, it is used for the specific identification of RNA molecules, right? And the procedure adopted for the northern hybridization is similar to that of southern hybridization technique and is given in this figure, figure given above, where you can see we have to extract the RNA. Then the RNA has to be digested with restriction enzymes, okay, and then they are subjected to agarose electrophoresis, where we'll get the RNA bands we will get. Then they are subjected to blotting, the same procedure, transfer that RNA strands into the nitrocellulose filter membrane. Then we have to do hybridization with suitable probes, which will bind complementary to the target RNA molecule, RNA fragment, and then we have to go for autoradiography, where with the help of here we can use DNA probe also, okay, to hybridize with the RNA. So the RNA molecules are subjected to electrophoresis, followed by a blood transfer technique, and then hybridization with the probes and autoradiography. RNA molecules do not easily bind to the nitrocellulose paper or nylon membrane. That's a problem. So here we have to use a different source of membrane paper. So blood transfer of RNA molecules is carried out by using a chemically reactive paper prepared by diazotization of aminobenzyl oxymethyl to create diazobenzyl oxymethyl paper. So, simply speaking, if you want to understand, these RNA molecules do not easily bind to the nylon paper or nitrocellulose membrane. So, where it will you what paper we will use? We will use this paper called diazobenzyl oxymethyl filter paper, which is actually carried out by prepared by diazotization, which is prepared by diazotization of your aminobenzyl oxymethyl to create this DBM, to create this diazobenzyl oxymethyl paper. RNA can very easily covalently can bind to this diazobenzyl oxymethyl paper. So some workers have later developed appropriate conditions to blot the RNA bands on nitrocellulose paper, and they have modified the nylon membranes so that RNA can easily bind. Now these are now widely used for the RNA blotting. The use of this diazobenzyl oxymethyl filter paper is now discontinued. So by modifying the your nitrocellulose filter paper and your nylon membrane, we can able to attach our RNA, the fragments of RNA into that membrane. The blood transfer RNA molecules hybridize with the DNA probes. Here also we can use DNA probes. Well, RNA probes can also be prepared, but here also we can use DNA probes attached with suitable radioactive isotopes or fluorochromes, which can be detected by autoradiography. Northern blotting is theoretically a good technique, not practically, obviously, for determining a number of genes through RNA present on the given DNA. But this is not practicable really, since each gene may give rise to two or more RNA transcripts. Well, we know very well that each gene can give rise to two or more RNA transcripts. You have studied the exon shuffling in your molecular biology class, where you have seen that the RNA during the splicing process, the RNA have introns and exons, right? And these introns are removed out and exons are joined. Now these exons are subjected to shuffling conditions, like for example exon 1 2 3 is there. It may be there that it may be exon 1 and 2. So one gene can give rise to many RNA transcripts, and that's why this is the disadvantage of this Northern blotting process. Another drawback is that presence of exons and introns. There is no such continuous sequence of RNA. The RNA just after transcription they are subjected to splicing, removing the introns and joining the exons. And these exons are also subjected to shuffling with various combinations to give rise to multiple RNA transcripts, to give rise to multiple types of RNA that will give you a different protein product. That's why our functional gene is very few. 95% of our DNA is junk, whereas 5% of our DNA is functionable to give rise to a protein or enzyme. And they are actually done because when they are transcribed, that RNA molecule are shuffled. Exon shuffling is done to various combinations to give rise to various RNA transcripts that will give rise to ultimately to different protein or enzyme products. So this is a problem in this technique. Well, we can use this technique for detection of RNA, but the problem is that theoretically it is very good, but each gene will give rise to multiple RNA transcript, and presence of exons and introns are there. So if you want to desire to make an RNA transcript, because we are using a DNA probe, okay, so we have to use a mature RNA probe also, and to make a mature RNA probe is a little bit difficult. So we can overcome this problem if we use that cDNA actually. So the mature RNA that has been prepared, from that mature RNA we have to make cDNA by the reverse transcription process, where reverse transcriptase enzyme will prepare the cDNA, and using the cDNA we have to use the probes. We have to make the probes, small cDNA fragments used as probes, which will be used for hybridization with the target mRNA molecules. So I hope you have understood what I have discussed today in this chapter. Okay, I am giving more notes about this, what I have discussed with you today. Just go through it. It's a very simple process. No too much. It is not difficult. Okay, and that's all for today's lecture.